opposing to the airport. I would like to hear why. What is the reason for you being against it?
I have a question.
Yeah.
This 2 mile radius extended 2 miles on out, has that been accomplished yet? I mean, is Highway 163 to the Lighten Corner, the junction 220th and 163, is that already in the city of Oskaloosa, or is it still on the table?
It's on the table. It's not a city.
I live out there. I've looked at the plat map. I've looked at the map you guys have had printed in the supervisor's office. I don't see where you have a right to do it. You are claiming that you have a connection to city property on the Van Hookland farm. And the Van Hookland farm, I know it's changed hands. The plat map doesn't show that there is a border that you can claim that borders 163. It borders 220th, but it doesn't border 163. And you didn't buy on the west side of the neighbor's house because that showed that it's still owned by the Hookland's daughter. And I don't think you have a right to do that.
No.
That's just where I'm sitting.
So there is no final plan yet. The idea, we discussed the idea of annexing the right-of-way, including the land owned by SCRAA, but there is no final plan yet.
So this affects me because this puts me in the city limits.
That's still a concept.
Okay. Because I don't see me ever getting any benefits out of being in the city of Oskaloosa.
Okay. So that's the land. So I'm talking about the airport. Are you opposing to the airport?
I am opposing to the airport, and this is how you're trying to get permission to oppose to do what you want to do on the airport, is to make it contingent to the city of Oskaloosa. So you have the right for annexation and condemnation.
Well,
all of us see this coming, but nobody wants to say it out loud. I guess I just said it out loud. So.
Well, condemnation is out of question right now.
But
The
it's
process
not out of question completely.
completely.
So you
swear-
can swear to us right now that you'll never use eminent domain or condemnation proceedings.
That's not the goal. That's not the goal.
Oh, no, that's always
But
been
you
the
can't-
goal.
Yeah, you can't say eminent domain and condemnation is
Well,
off
I
the
know
table
the
if it's
path
not
we're
off the
taking.
table.
I know what the approach we're taking, and that's not part of it.
He talks about this all going through the FAA and stuff. Somebody's pulled the FAA chain to get them to even look at it.
No,
We know this has all been moving for over 20 years to get an airport here that nobody wants. We voted it down twice. And we're never given the opportunity the third time to vote it down. The man that had your job before stood in front of over 400 of us and told us, this is happening, you're not going to get to vote on it. Said that in a public meeting. And we've just been run over ever since.
well, that's behind us. The past,
No, it's not
the
behind us.
process in the
What's
past
behind us is
maybe
what's
not been
driving us
ideal.
forward.
But we're here today. We're taking a different approach. We're negotiating with the owners. We're not discussing eminent domain. I know that's what you guys all thinking, but this is not what is happening here.
No, what I'm talking about is me being annexed into the city of Oskaloosa. I'm never going to get a chance to vote one way or the other, even though the state law says that you have to ask me if I want to be in the city of Oskaloosa. I'll never see it. It'll never happen to me. I guarantee that some way this place will find a way to cheat me out of my rights as a landowner.
And the only reason for the annexation is to get back the eminent domain authority that SCRAA lost when Mahaska County dumped out.
Not true. We need to do planning. We need to plan for service provision for the airport. How are we going to serve the airport? And then there's
How are you going to serve it before the annexation?
There is zoning we need to do, especially for air restrictions. We were talking about the airport. That's the reason we're doing this annexation. I don't know how you make it about eminent domain while we would never discuss this.
Because you don't have 80% of the landowners out there on board for your airport. That's where the eminent domain will come in. That's the 80-20 agreement that you will get out of this whole deal. And then Jack gets run over, Jim gets run over, Dave gets run over. Bert will get run over.
Well,
Bert's not
Jack
in the
can tell
airport
you, Jack
today.
can tell you,
But your
it's
plan for the airport is for an east-west runway too, and it'll go right in his front yard, and you will run over Bert with eminent domain, because he won't want to sell out any more than anybody else does.
Well, right now we're doing a slippery slope. That's a fallacy. That you're saying, well, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. That's just not.
If I'd have said this 18 years ago, I'd be sitting here today because I'd still be right.
You're gonna deny the eminent domain, but it's still gonna happen.
How? If it's never part of the plan.
Because you're gonna deny it right now, right in front of us, but eventually, some way or another, they're gonna try and weasel their way into making it happen.
We've never seen an honest move out of the city on this whole deal.
Yeah, not one. Not one from day one. For just the way the 2080 agreement was put together, and the Supreme Court can back that up. But as far as other reasons to
I'm
hold
glad
on,
you
you asked why we opposed the
I'm glad
airport.
you
I'm
brought
about
up
to tell you.
the.
First of all, the way it got started and the way that elected officials from this city and Mahaska County put the letter together that went to Pella to signal their intent to start reopening discussions on it. The only reason that was done to avoid a public meeting. There was a lawsuit over it. They barely avoided a public meetings violation. The kickoff to this thing was done entirely to circumvent public oversight and public input. Then to top that off, you put together a 2080 agreement that wasn't legal to begin with. It still has no,
You
it
keep
still has,
saying
let me
that.
finish.
That is
Let me
not
finish,
true.
let me finish.
That
It's
is
still,
not true.
no, let me finish.
That is not
Hey,
true.
Yes, it is. It
You
is.
keep
It still
saying
has
it's
no
illegal.
end. It still has no end. You can't have a contract without an end. Has it been
One
re-signed?
section out of the whole agreement that the court opinion came back to say, well, this section is out of the agreement. But they never taken the whole agreement as being unconstitutional, and you're twisting that.
No, I'm not.
You keep
So,
saying
but,
that
okay.
the agreement is still valid. You can call the
The
attorney
Supreme
general.
Court
make sure.
opined that Mahaska County's entry into that agreement was illegal and unconstitutional because they didn't have a way to get out of it the way they went in.
I can
Pella and
prove it.
Oskaloosa
I
went
can
into
prove
that
it. There is
contract the
damages.
same way.
I can prove
Continuing
it,
on that
and the
list of
supervisors
reasons why we
can
don't want this
corroborate.
airport, nobody has
prove it.
provided a shred of evidence or data that this is going to have a positive economic impact or a benefit that outweighs the public cost. The costs of this project continue to skyrocket, and over the last 10 years, landowners have continued to be harassed and harangued and basically intimidated and coerced. We are tired of it. The city needs to go back to the drawing board, redo its comprehensive development plan without this airport and without the annexation plan, and try again. You need to dissolve the SCRAA. We're tired of you harassing and haranguing our neighbors into trying to do something that they don't want to do for the benefit of an elite few.
So the agreement, I will correct this, it has a section that talks about if one of the entities wanted to exit, they pay damages. They would not have that in agreement if the agreement provides no way out. There is a $250,000 in damages in the agreement. You can pull it today and read it. That's the remedy. You want to exit as an entity out of the agreement, you pay the other two entities $250,000.
But along
Why
with
would you
that,
have that in agreement if the agreement is not allowing you to exit?
I'll ask it again. Does the 2080 agreement have an end term date?
No.
No, it doesn't,
up
which
to-
is
it's up to the
unconstitutional and illegal, Amal.
I think we, let's, the 20, I don't think any of us in this room today had anything really to do with the 2080 agreement.
No, but I wanted to hear,
That was
that's
before
one
our
thing we
time.
heard about why,
But
People
to
are
that
against
end,
the
Jerry,
airport.
this is all happening pursuant to that
I mean,
2080
that-
agreement, right?
2080 was.
That's
put
where
in
the SCRA gets its authority as a political subdivision and the authority to do anything at all, right? So you are acting pursuant to that 2080 agreement, right?
The 2080 was in place before I came on board, and actually, it was in place before Amal came out.
Right,
It was
but your
crafted
contractor
by,
with the SCRAA, which is a political subdivision created by
Correct.
that 2080,
Yeah.
right?
and there's
And so we're
been,
still acting pursuant to that
Just-
agreement.
can you let me speak? Can I finish?
Go ahead, sir.
That 2080 was compiled, put together, and certainly I think over the past 2 years has been scrutinized closely by a number of experts and attorneys, ultimately ending up in the Supreme Court that made a ruling and a determination. And so, as Amal said, whether it's a legal entity, which it is, and as was pointed out by Amal, there was one section that was found to be unconstitutional, but the balance of the agreement still exists as is intact. And unless someone else finds other exceptions, then that is where we are currently today.
Right, so there is a potential that somebody could raise another challenge to that and it could get litigated again.
That's the great thing about democracy. You can raise all the challenges. And
You are correct, the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United
So-
States gives right.
So
to
you can
sue.
bring other challenges and go through that process again, and ultimately the courts will make a ruling and a determination.
And if that happens,
They
then
And with
the
that-
case would be.
Dave's got a question.
No, that's okay. Nick's speaking for me too. I just was wondering if I'm the only person in this room that thinks it's significant that nobody from the SCRAA is here talking to us. That just dawned on me.
I represent the city.
You rep the city, right, but nobody from the airport board is here, are they?
No.
There. To me, that's significant.
Well, they'll be having their meetings and they'll give you the same opportunity as I think.
They'll be
is
ended up dealing with the four of us landowners some way, shape, or form.
correct.
And I've been sitting here listening, I'm thinking, how come nobody from the airport board's presenting their side here?
How come they haven't been having meetings?
Don't ask me.
Okay, I'll
I
ask
just
you,
work here.
why has the SCRA
I'm
not?
not on the board.
And isn't that stipulated that they have to?
Not sure, but they're lack of business, basically.
But aren't they still required to have a meeting every so often?
I
I think one time a year they.
Only with an annual in February.
Yeah. John knows that rule, and ask John, he was on the board a good
So
number of
where's the
years now.
representative from Bella then?
Right. Pardon?
Where's the representative from Bella?
I think the primary focus of the previous meetings has been really on roads around the end of the runway and 235th, which is, and the farm to market issue. And that has been what we've been focused on. And the one thing we want to get resolved, in fact, I think it can be, I don't think I'm misrepresenting what I've understood to be the case. Until there is an acceptable solution to the disconnect of 220th, this project's going nowhere. And so, is that fair?
Well, we can resolve this whole issue and utilize the Ottumwa Airport
Yeah.
rather than having to
I
build
don't
a
want
new.
to talk about the Ottumwa Airport, I want to talk about 235th, that's the purpose of this meeting, a mitigation for the disconnect of 220th, and then how that affects the property owners. And if we want to talk about the Iowa Aviation System Plan, which includes Ottumwa, we can have a special meeting for that because there is 100 and some airports in the state of Iowa, and we're not prepared to talk about all of them at the present time. But we can certainly talk about the two that are affected, that being the Pella Municipal Airport and the Oskaloosa Municipal Airport. The other area airports, Grinnell, Newton, Knoxville, or Ottumwa, but they're part of the system. They have a role in the system. Their role is different than this. This airport was designated as a major general aviation airport to service the area. And in fact, it basically falls in a classification higher than that of Grinnell or Knoxville, for that matter. It's a regional facility. That's its role not only in the NIPIA, in the National Airport System, but also in the State Aviation System Plan. But we can talk about those other airports, and those are certainly alternatives. And those alternatives, usage was taken into consideration at the time this project moved forward. In fact, based on my earlier comments, if